Greetings, everyone, from here on the field at Michigan Stadium. Anthony Broom here with Clayton Safey as we have wrapped spring football, Clayton. Michigan's spring game is in the books. Blue team, led by Bryce Underwood, wins 17-0 over the Mays. Little twisting of the knife there late. It was a double reverse pass, double flea flicker from Underwood to Jalen Hoffman.
I'd say I haven't seen a replay because it was hit or miss with the replays because we don't have TVs up there. I would call it, on first glance, and I could be wrong, a reverse, like fake reverse flea flicker, and then 88 yards to Jalen Hoffman, who was probably the MVP of the game.
He was. And unofficial stats, I'll get to those eventually, just kind of keeping them very sloppily in a Google Doc. So we'll have something on that up later tonight over at the Wolverine. But takeaways from this, there's a lot to get through, and it starts with the quarterbacks. We only saw two of them today, Bryce Underwood, Jaden Davis. We had wondered how they were going to handle this. Was it going to be all-time QBs? Was it going to be this? Was it going to be that? No, they play. Bryce Underwood played for the blue team, played the entire game. Jaden Davis played for the Mays, played the entire game. We'll start with Bryce because that's, the elephant in the room is this is probably your starting quarterback come fall. And, I forget what the official stat line was. It was a little less than 50% of his passes completed. But, we talked about the other day how we wanted to come out and see what the vision for him would be in this offense, what his skill set, just kind of throw it around a bit. And they took shots down the field. His arm strength is as advertised. There are a couple of plays, took a couple of delay of games. He threw an interception, which, again, we don't have the benefit of a broadcast to go back and look at it for a few days, but it looked like a miscommunication between him and Shannon Goodwin. But overall, he ran a little bit. This is a 17-year-old kid that looks like a college quarterback, and we'll see. Good baseline set today, I thought, though.
First thought from me is please like the video. Hit that thumbs up button. We got to get to 400 likes on this video. Like it if you're excited to watch Bryce Underwood when this does air on next Sunday on BTN, 11 a.m., April 27th. And subscribe to the channel as well over on YouTube. But you're right. I mean, one of the things that's interesting in these formats is that Bryce Underwood's legs are one of his better attributes. His athleticism is off the charts, and he's not really allowed to run, right? He gets tagged off. They count it as a sack. Probably a couple times, he would get out of one of those tackles, something like that. So it hurts him there. And then he only had the one scramble. You mentioned he had a long run, kind of came back up the middle, found an alley, then split it off to the left and ran for 15, 20 yards down the sideline. So
unofficially charted at 17, I believe.
17. Okay. So that was a dazzling play, improvisation from him. With the throwing, I mean, there weren't, you said it, under 50% completion percentage, but I don't see that as a concern at all. He did miss a few passes. One of them overthrown to the end zone. The wind was really blowing this way, it looked like, from the way
I think it's still traveling this way, as far as I know.
So there were things like that he's going to get more comfortable with playing here at the big house, and other things that they didn't really call a lot of layup type of throws for him. They let him uncork it a little bit. He did have the one touchdown late on the trick play, so I wouldn't necessarily call that like some touchdown strike in the portion of the game that
was all Jalen Hoffman.
Yeah, I mean, it was all the play calling. It was Jalen Hoffman's speed and Andrew Marsh blocking out in front, the freshman wide receiver. But I thought Bryce Underwood looked really good. Some things to clean up, right? His team took 2 delay game penalties. There were some holding penalties that aren't his fault, but those were on the offensive line that we'll talk about, I'm sure, as well. Had some really nice passes. A couple of his best passes were incompletions. You and I were talking up in the press box that there was one to Joe Taylor.
Yeah, right behind us here.
Yeah, in the end zone that would have gone for a touchdown, was broken up by Chase Taylor, number 29, who had a big day as a freshman early enrollee linebacker. There were some really nice plays that aren't going to show up on that stat sheet, but you guys will see it when it airs on BTN. He made some nice plays, had some misses in the pass game as well, and there was probably too much pressure, I would say, on him, and obviously the sacks were all just tag-off sacks. They weren't.
Yeah.
But there were quite a few of those, too, and those were on the offensive line.
Yeah, quarterbacks were not live. Again, this format in general, because I already saw it. You're going to see it on social media where the unofficial stat line will get tweeted out, and you'll have Ohio State fans, Michigan State fans being like, $10 million for this, $12 million for this. But all I wanted to see today was that skill set. Mobility-wise, I liked what I saw. Again,
I don't care about that at all.
I don't. I'm responding to that because they're gonna, they put food in our, on our table too. They watch these shows. They take in our content. But for me, I just wanted to see the skill set and this format when you have the split squads and Donovan McCulley, probably this team's best wide receiver. He's playing with Jaden Davis. It's not the starting offense that these guys are out there for, to everyone's credit. So it's not really conducive to, gaudy numbers. And, anyone who comes out to a Michigan spring game expecting an offensive show, you've never been to one before. Never been like this.
It's never happened. I mean, those of us that remember the Alex Malzone against Shane Morris battle back in 2015, that was probably the most attended Michigan spring game ever because it was Jim Harbaugh's first. But I do want to mention too, as we wrap up the quarterbacks, Bryce threw an interception on a 3rd and long, dumb decision, put it up for grabs. It was a spring game type of throw, learning experience. It's on film to Tevis Metcalf, who played really well, played some nickel, played some outside corner. And then Jeremiah Lowe, the redshirt freshman corner for the blue team, Bryce's team, had 2 picks on Jaden Davis and looked good out there, got a lot of run. And just format-wise, too, as we talk about that, a lot of the starters that are cemented, like Ernest Hausman, Jayshon Barham, they played a few snaps. Some of the others on the lines of scrimmage played about a quarter and a half, and then they started to trickle out as well. So guys that a lot about and have played a lot of football here at the University of Michigan didn't see a bunch of time, and that allowed us to see some of those depth pieces and younger guys.
Yeah, and kind of back to Bryce for a second, too. It was a bit of a struggle early, especially early on when everyone was in there. But you kind of figure, I bet this gets a little easier for him as the subsequent waves of the team are out there. And that was the case. But overall, I think we still need to remember this is a 17-year-old playing college football. Kid's not even old enough to vote yet. Can't even go to the party store and pick up a carton of cigarettes. So I don't recommend he do that. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do still, and a lot of pieces that still need to come together.
That said, though, I leave here really impressed with what I saw from Bryce Underwood today. It's kind of exactly what I thought we would see, right? He made a bunch of plays. There were some incompletions. Again, they were throwing downfield a lot. So I leave here really impressed with Bryce Underwood, maybe minus like if Joe Taylor catches that ball or somebody else makes a play in the end zone, they threw a couple fade routes, got a PI on one of them.
If you're running fade to Donovan McCulley instead of, Andrew Marsh and Jamar Browder, no disrespect to those guys.
They're true
talented
freshmen,
but those are kids too out there playing against, guys who have been out here. So
and Marsh drew a PI. So so one of them, good play.
Rapid fire, Jaden Davis. Okay. About what you'd expect.
Yeah, the long windup is still there. Throwing motion takes a while. A couple tipped passes. He threw 2 interceptions, as we mentioned. One of them that got tipped could have been picked again, put the ball in harm's way. But besides that, some nice throws, kind of just those. They did call a little more of those layups. They had more heavy personnel on the Mays team. They ran the ball a lot more, which probably leads us to the running backs. We saw Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes, especially Marshall, very limited, just a few carries. Justice Haynes, quite a few early on, had a nice 26-yard run down the sideline, had a couple really other nice runs, like 8-9 yard pops, and then really Bryson Cusdahl for Mays, right? And then Micah Kapana for the blue team. They showed out, and you see that from backup running backs. Backup running backs get the most shine in spring games usually because, what are you going to do on a random down? You're going to hand it off, and someone's got to be back there, so they get a lot of the carries. But Cusdahl, who is former walk-on, I've heard he's on scholarship now. I kind of wanted to ask Sharon more of that after, but didn't want to waste one of our limited questions on it. Not that would be a waste, but he really looked good.
He looked really good. And, again, it's worth mentioning that offensive lines were split up. Ben Hall left the team this week. He's in the transfer portal. So a lot of run for, like you said, Kapana and Cusdahl. Tommy O'Meara was another guy that got some run out there. I feel like there's one more that I can't place at the moment. Joe Taylor had a carry.
Taylor got a couple carries, and he's a slot. So
yeah, I was really
do it all guy.
Yeah, I was impressed with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. We know those guys are gonna be pretty darn good. We saw Jordan Marshall do it in the bowl game. We know there was the big NIL investment in Justice Haynes via the transfer portal. So those guys are known commodities, but it was nice to see both of them kind of have their moments there, especially the one was the 26 yards right up the left side for Haynes that you talked about. So to his credit, Bryson Cusdahl had a 38-yard run.
I want to say 38. Yeah, right over here.
Yep,
somewhere over here. Now you guys will see it on next Sunday.
Yeah, you'll see it a week from now.
I feel bad that we're talking about this, but we're bringing the people some info. So
yeah, I think that's about it on running backs, wide receivers. Again, kind of a mixed bag. We didn't see a lot of the guys that we think will be starters, or at least a guy like McCulley. He had the one grab that was kind of I don't know how you describe it, a lob or it was a jump ball.
It was a free play. Jaden Davis drew the blue team offsides twice in this game. One of them goes to Donovan McCulley along the left sideline there for a nice completion. I mean, rapid fire on wideouts. You had that from McCulley, then you didn't see much of him after that. Andrew Marsh had a few nice catches, broke a tackle over here, got himself 4 or 5 extra yards. That was nice to see. He looked really smooth moving around. Maybe not the top end speed, but looked good. Browder was moving around. I don't know that he made a catch. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of Channing Goodwin, number 14.
I have to go back and look at what I charted.
Yeah.
But I think he had the lion's share of the targets from Bryce Underwood. So there's some chemistry there.
They look like they have a good connection going.
And speaking of good connection between Bryce Underwood, Jalen Hoffman today. Probably had, again, I don't have the stats in front of us, 7 or 8 catches. He had a 90-yard score at the end, but
he had to have 150 yards or something like that.
Yeah, and he was having a good day before that last play. But
number 42, former walk-on fullback tight end. For people that don't know him, because he really hasn't played.
Well, he's super interesting, and I'm sure we'll do kind of more of a deep dive on him soon enough. But we've been hearing about him for a few years as kind of the understudy to Max Bredesen, and they were limited with tight ends today. Hogan Hansen didn't play. I don't think Marlon Klein played either. Maybe he only played.
I thought he played a few in the beginning. Yeah, okay, Hansen was not dressed though.
But so Jalen, and to a certain extent, it might be like the running backs that got in where it's just opportunity led to that. But
Jordan Marshall said that and pointed this out. I guess we should have realized that Jalen Hoffman was the only tight end at all on the blue team, so he had to carry that whole load. That's why we saw more heavy sets from the Mays. They did better when they were running the ball with Kuzdal, and then the blue team had to spread it out a little bit more, which gave Bryce the opportunity to find different targets, including Hoffman. He found him in the flat a few times. He found him down in the seam a couple times, and then the big one for the trick play touchdown.
Yeah, and these tight ends, it's going to be Chip Lindsey's offense is going to be a little bit different. We saw a little bit of that today. Again, it depended on the team, personnel wise and things like that. But they're going to use the tight ends, and one of the best assets for a young quarterback is a tight end that you have chemistry with, because oftentimes those guys are going to be your third or fourth read, and you just need to get rid of the football. And I don't know what Hoffman's outlook is. I don't know if he's more of a Max Bredesen. I don't know if he's more of a reserve tight end. But with what we saw today, especially when people see the video of the touchdown, whenever they do, I don't know if I doubt there'll be a social media clip of it.
From some fans, there probably is.
There probably is. But I was surprised by the juice in the open field, too, because he's what, like 6'3", 6'4", 250, and he got down the sideline. I was kind of surprised how he was able to outrun the back end of that defense.
I was a little disappointed with the defensive angles and the speed on that defense, but yeah, he got down there, and Marsh kind of got in front of some guys.
Yeah, well, they baited him into it. We thought they were going to run out the clock. I had to rewrite the end of the game story that's up on the Wolverine.com now. So,
talk O-line.
We can. O-line's difficult because it's already. I'll just say this in general. I don't know that I saw a because when the lines are split up, you're looking for individual plays, individual performances.
And Sharon said that after the game, that you're looking more on individual battles because they are split up.
And I got to be honest, I didn't really see a wild play from that group. They ran the ball, like both teams ran the ball fairly well, but there's an asterisk next to that always because of the split squads and things like that. But
it was tough sledding though in the beginning when those starters win. So they gotta, again, those guys are split in the defense too, but they didn't move it much early. It wasn't a first down until I think the 4th possession of this game. So early on, those starting defensive linemen that they were rolling through in waves, or that they will roll through in waves once they're all on the same team, I think wreaked some havoc there. We saw a lot of plays in the backfield. Rayshawn Benny had a sack, tap off on Bryce Underwood on the first. I guess let's just talk all line play. The first play of the game was a sack by by Rayshawn Benny on Bryce Underwood. We saw some really good things from Dominic Nichols, a sophomore edge, who played a decent role in that Alabama game.
You talk about a young guy who looks the part too. He very much does.
He does. Julius Holly got a lot of run, the early enrollee freshman, number 37. My new guy, like we joke about this, last year it was Breon Ishmael. Lugard Edekpai he didn't make many plays, but he was out there towards the end. He looks really explosive, great athlete. He'll be good down the road sometime. But rolled through a lot of edges. D tackles looked pretty good. Early on didn't see a ton of snaps from the starters, but that's to be expected.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway about the line play on both sides of the ball is really what Sharon Moore said after the game. I think it was Angelique who had asked, what does your starting 5 look like right now? And he said he doesn't know what it looks like, but Gio El Hadi, a likely starter at left guard, Greg Crippen, a likely starter at center, Andrew Sprague. I assume the right tackle. Everything else kind of up
That
for
is correct.
grabs, and we'll see what happens via the transfer portal. We know they're in on some guys. Evan Link, Brady Norton are battling at left tackle. Guard, we've heard we've heard good things about Nathan Afobe, but that's still up for grabs as well. So
yeah, we saw Norton start at right tackle actually, and then move over to left, I believe, or was it the other way around? And then we saw Link at left tackle throughout his time in the game. Andrew Babalola started at left. That's what. Okay, so Norton was at right. So Babalola started at left, and then I think he might have stayed out there. So we saw a lot of him. We saw a lot of Jake Guarnera at center after Crippen came out. Caden Strayhorn played center. So a lot of guys in there, a lot of names people know. Again, pretty hard to judge, but should we move more to defense overall?
Defense overall, yeah. I think that's
good.
Guess what? It's going to be darn good again, and it's very deep. Linebacker play, I thought pretty strong. Cole Sullivan flashed a few things today.
Cole Sullivan had a few TFLs and a few. I mean, I'm always pumping him up, but I mean, he looked really good out there. Jimmy Rolder was good early on. Chase Taylor, we mentioned, he made a lot of plays. We did see Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, the other freshman early enrollee.
It's weird to see a linebacker wear 12, isn't it?
It kind of is, yeah. It reminds you of Josh Ross a couple years ago. He kind of, sometimes you get those types that remind you of another guy just because of the jersey number, but
yeah.
he's much more athletic than Ross. We saw a little bit of Barham and Hausman, but that's it. So I think they flashed some linebacker depth. The DB room, those backups made plays, right? Jeremiah Lowe. We saw quite a few PBUs by Josiah Edmond, who is in his second year here at Michigan. Zeke Berry barely played in the beginning, I believe, if he even got in there. I think he did. Shamari Earls at corner played quite a bit, had a couple nice plays out there, but also it was against some backup wide receivers. So you see it there. I think I'm still a little concerned about corner depth, but safety depth looked really good.
Well, in corner depth, it looks like, at least in the early going, that's something that Michigan's kicking the tires on in the spring portal. So we'll see, what fruit that ultimately bears. Tevis Metcalf had an interception. Again, it was just kind of a layup on a throw, miscommunication from Bryce Underwood, but you like to see him making plays. TJ Metcalf's name was called a few times. Were they on the same team or were they separated?
They were on the same team. They both started. Tevis started at nickel. TJ was back at safety, and then Tevis moved outside to outside corner as the game went on too. So he's going to be a versatile piece for them. Probably a forgotten about guy.
I'm trying to think of what else. It's so weird to do this right from memory because it's really all we have to go on, other than some of the notes we took and some of what we'll write here. You brought up Shamari Earls. Again, we talk about guys that look the part coming off the bus. Like, as a true freshman, he looks like he's ready to play.
He moves really well, really smooth.
Yeah.
And he's big and physical.
Wear the number 2, so you double take for a second. And
plays a little part of it too. Yeah, as we're talking about with 12, same thing.
But yeah, I think overall, I'm not going to sit here and change a win prediction or plant a flag on, they're going 9-3 or 10-2. I think for the most part, you saw what you wanted to see. This day is kind of headlined by seeing the young quarterback in Bryce Underwood and some of the other young pieces on this team. But I don't walk out of this as, we watched this team play spring games in those years a couple of years ago when they're competing for playoff spots and national championships. And it looked exactly like this too. And that's not to say this is what that team is, but this is what this spring game is. Like, it's a bar fight. It's tough. There's not a lot of space to make plays. There's not a lot of chemistry because these guys on their respective teams have only been playing together, this week when they split up the squads. But overall, I think there was some to like, some to clean up. I don't know that it changes my opinion on specific position groups here and there, but we got our first look. We've got a little menu of things to work on here over the next several months, and we'll see what Michigan's able to come up with. But I don't know that my opinion is swayed or changed all that much. It was just good to be back here.
For sure. Last thing for me is just Jordan Marshall pointed out that the offense probably only won 1 or 2 days during the spring, that the defense was ahead, and that's motivating them. But they do feel optimistic that they're coming along. You could see that, right? Bryce Underwood made some plays to extend those scoring drives, even though Micah Kapana, who we should have mentioned, scored from 2 yards out. He finished off that scoring drive, the only legit touchdown scoring drive other than the trick play. But Bryce Underwood was probably the difference in extending those drives, and Jaden Davis and that team was moving the ball better on the ground than through the air, so they didn't pick up some of those third downs. But yeah, I see the defenses ahead of the offense, especially at the line of scrimmage. There was too much leakage and penetration there, but you got a whole offseason to clean some stuff up, potentially add to the roster. So good day overall at the big house. Beautiful weather for the most part, about 60 and cloudy. So kind of footballish weather and better than we've had in past spring games. So excited to be here.
Excited definitely sums it up, and that's a wrap on spring football. We will put a bow on this game with our coverage over at thewolverine.com, so head on over there. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll clean up some of the coverage from this on Monday when we do our podcast, and then from there, I mean, we'll see what transfer portal looks like. Dusty May was here. He had Merez Johnson Jr. was here, signee. So basketball
subscribers not surprised over at the Wolverine.
That's right. And some work to do for both teams in the transfer portal this week. Basketball closes, I think, Monday or Tuesday, and football is a little later in the week. So it's going to be a busy week as we clean up from spring ball, find out what Michigan football's roster is going to look like. I'm sure there'll be a few more defections, additions, and whatnot, but we've got you covered at thewolverine.com. For my partner here to my left, Clayton Safety.
I got a tea time. I got to go.
Yeah, he's got to get out of here. I got a quiche in the oven. For Clayton Safety, I'm Anthony Broom. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you again soon.